Tom, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Ben. Should be a fun show today.
Yeah, my favorite part about today's show, I have no idea what we're going to talk about. I literally have nothing written down. I usually have my show flow, and it says right here, intro, chit chat, topics, and I put no idea. So it's going to either be a short show or a great show or something in the middle. I don't know, but I'm excited.
No, it'll be a good show.
I thought of you yesterday, by the way. I was at Wednesday morning. My dad, well, you know my dad, Terry. My brother, and I go out for breakfast every Wednesday morning. Solve the world's problems kind of a thing. And Dad orders oatmeal. I'm like, who orders oatmeal at a restaurant for breakfast? Oh, wait a minute, that's right. Tiffany does.
Oh, your dad. What a smart man.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Oatmeal for breakfast. So yeah, I'm out in DC today,
Are
and
you?
yeah, we'll talk about all things DC. And had a really interesting trip last week, and I belong to something called the Western Caucus,
Uh-huh.
and they deal with Western issues, which many are similar to here in the Midwest. And so I joined that group, and they had one of their annual trips that they do. This one went to Las Vegas, and we got to see the National Finals Rodeo. Pretty cool.
Oh, neat.
People at Spooner will appreciate a rodeo, right?
Oh, of course. Spooner
Yeah.
Rodeo. Western Caucus. Hey, is that something? Hey, now we officially have a topic.
There we go.
Western Caucus. Do you want to bring that up, or is it not? Nobody would care.
Yeah.
All right,
Got to
cool.
start somewhere.
That's what I'm thinking. Speaking of, you ready to get going?
We're ready.
All right, man. Good morning, everybody. Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany is my very special guest today, Thursday, December 9th, 2021. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and of course you're watching Breakfast with Tiffany, a monthly live video podcast with our area Congressional District Representative, where we discuss all things going on in D.C. and in the 7th Congressional District. This is also a time for you, our viewers, to ask your congressman a question. To do so, simply put in your question, or if you just have a topic that you want for us to discuss or for Congressman Tiffany to discuss, just put that in the comments during our live show. So yeah, let's just get right to it. Tom, good morning, sir.
Hey, Ben, so last month when we did this, I was supposed to click on something here to be able to see those comments. What is that again? Do you know?
No, I don't see what
If
you
you
see.
see the questions, you ask me, okay?
Yeah, I will, but it should be on your screen, probably not right in the middle of that video thing, but it should be like a little button that says comments or something. It should be on maybe towards the end of your screen
I
somewhere.
am not exactly a nerd, you know?
Troubleshooting with Tom Tiffany.
Okay,
I love it.
maybe here it is.
Yeah, there you should be able to.
There it is.
Hey,
Hey, we got Larry Olson who's already in here saying, good morning,
I know.
Mr. Tiffany and Ben. Thank you, Larry. And I hope everybody is getting in the swing of the Christmas season. It is a great time of year. And, there's some great people that have birthdays in December.
who's that, by the way?
Mine's December 30th.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah.
but more importantly, I'm
Yeah.
so glad at the top of the show, you recite it's Thursday, December 9th. It reminded me, my youngest daughter, Catherine, it is her birthday tomorrow, December 10th.
Oh,
And I got to make sure that we recognize that appropriately.
yeah.
So happy birthday, Catherine. I hope to
Oh.
be home tomorrow. Out in D.C. here today, Ben.
Yeah, it looks like it. And speaking of, my birthday is also in December. So, all the important people's are in December.
Wow.
Yeah, mine's on Christmas Day. It's mine and Jesus. That's the other one. So,
Oh, yeah, that JC
that
guy.
little thing. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I just noticed that. So I went. You've been on. Every time you come on, it seems you're in a different location, a different background, something.
It does.
So I was actually hoping that you were going to I went back and watched some of our old shows, and I saw one where you had a flag behind you, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that. So we kind of rebranded a little here. Dude, we got flags everywhere. We are so pro-America on this show. Look at that.
Flags. The red, white, and blue. It looks
America.
great.
I know. Absolutely great. So, yeah, happy birthday to, well, for you. That'll be before you're back on again. So I don't have a whole lot written down. And matter of fact, I literally have nothing written down except for something we just kind of brought up, something about a Western caucus. But first, in terms
Look at
of...
all these people that are signing in here.
Well,
Steve has
isn't that
good
nice?
morning from Spooner. And man,
Spooner's great. Oh, by the way, I have a picture to show you.
good morning, everyone.
If I actually did this right.
All right.
Hold on. I was meeting with or not meeting. I saw your BFF the other day. Where is it? There we go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was, what is today? It was Tuesday. Governor Evers was in town signed a whole bunch of things, and it was grant money. One of them was the Lumberjacks here in town. The Shell Lake Art Center, I think, received a grant, and then...
What is that jersey? Was that the Spooner Lumberjacks or
I believe so, yeah.
is it like the Northwoods Lumberjacks, something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the... Shoot, I should probably know that. Yeah, it's the Lumberjacks. Hopefully somebody else knows. I don't know if it's called Northwoods. Yeah, I think it is because it's made up of several areas. But it's just funny about this photo because Mike Schaefer, you know who Mike Schaefer is, Spooner Health CEO, he was there. And I just went down to take a few pictures, and he just grabbed a picture next to me. And when he was taking, he goes, "Hey, Governor," because he knows that I've asked the governor to come on many times to do a live show. And and so far, we haven't even heard anything back. So while he was taking the photo, he's like, "Hey, Governor, you should go on Dryden Wire for a live show." And that's when he turned and looked at me like, "What's Dryden Wire?" I love it.
What's Dryden Wire?
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Oh, it's Wisconsin.
Anybody in Wisconsin knows what the Dryden Wire is. By the way, Steve, thank you. It's the Wisconsin Lumberjacks.
Wisconsin. Yep, there you go. So good to know.
Perfect. Question asked, question answered.
Look, that's all we do, man. We solve problems. You got a question? Yeah. Okay, so what were we talking about?
Yeah, what do you want to talk about today?
What are things going on in Washington, D.C.? Because let's face it, most people probably don't follow, myself included, to be honest, with all of the bills that are going on, all the things happening in Washington, D.C., like progress and this is where we are. And we see the big things like on media they'll talk about, but we don't know if that's the House or if that's the Senate, how this stuff is working. Is there something right now that is being discussed in Washington, D.C., and probably for the House, since that's where you're in, that, yeah, you know what? No kidding. You guys should be paying attention to this. This is a big deal. Is there something going on like that right now?
Yeah, so a couple things that have passed. I think since the last time we talked, the infrastructure bill that passed it had been passed in the Senate months ago. The House finally passed it. That was the bill that, for people that keep track of numbers, that was the $1.2 trillion. President Biden signed that into law. In fact, he went over to Rosemont, Minnesota, talked about it, did a quick tour into Rosemont to tout what was part of his agenda. And I did vote against that bill because only about a quarter of it actually goes for infrastructure, what you call roads, bridges, broadband, that type of stuff. And plus, it would take on a whole lot more debt for our country. And we've been taking on plenty of debt. We don't need to take on any more debt. And we actually I think the important thing to mention there is that we did have an alternative. It wasn't like we were just saying no, those of us that voted against it. We had an alternative, a $400 billion bill that would have been the largest infrastructure bill in the history of the country. And it would have been strictly for roads, bridges, ports, airports, stuff that is actually infrastructure. But anyhow, most people know that at this point. One thing that we did pass last night was it's referred to the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. And that's done annually. And as implied within that acronym, that is the defense bill. We were able to get that passed. Now, I voted against that a number of months ago when it was being passed through the House and being sent to the Senate. And I voted against it because there was a whole bunch of stuff in there that I thought really had nothing to do with defense. It had some of the, kind of critical race theory type stuff that we're hearing in regards to schools. It has some of that, what we would call political correctness stuff that they've been advocating, including in the military. Get that stuff out of there. Also, there was a red flag law. Red flag law, you can confiscate somebody's guns without any due process.
Yeah.
You don't have to prove the case. You don't have to get a search warrant, nothing like that. You don't have to get a warrant. You can just go take somebody's guns.
Mm.
I believe that's wrong. I believe there is a presumption of innocence yet in this country. And so there's a bunch of stuff like that that was in NDAA. And in the conference, which is when the Senate and the House meet, when they have differences in regards to a bill, they conferenced over it, and a bunch of that stuff was taken out that I believe really didn't have anything to do with the military, and or simply shouldn't be in there. And I did vote for the NDA this week, and that will go on.
I'm sorry.
Biden.
You said you did.
I did vote
Okay.
for it
Sure.
now when it came back, largely because they removed the bad stuff. There is a pay increase for our troops, which I think is very appropriate.
Nice.
And I fully support that, as well as there is additional money, especially on the Navy side, the naval side, to get us to that 350 ships so China is not getting ahead of us in regards to who's going to control the high seas of the world. And so at the end of the day, I thought it was acceptable to vote for it and did so last night, and it should become law.
Yeah. By the way,
One other thing I'm going to mention real quick, Ben,
please.
that is that's still hanging out there is the whole debt limit. That was done like 3 months ago, and it was kicked off until early December. We have not voted on that yet in the House. I don't think we need to vote for the debt limit increase. If you read the mainstream media, they'll say, oh, the country's going to shut down if the debt limit is not increased. That's not the case. Whatever income is coming into the country, they can continue to pay for Social Security, things like that. Social Security, Medicare, all those bills that really should be paid, they can still be paid for. I just think that it is an opportunity to say to the federal government, we do not have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. We got plenty of revenue coming in. So anyhow,
I'm glad you brought that up because I actually wrote that down. We were talking that for some reason it just clicked. I'd seen on, I don't know, CBS morning shows or something a little while ago about the government shutdown. Something was done, and then it was kind of like kick the can, right? And it's, I don't know where we are in that. But, I have some follow-ups to the things that you had just said. First, I'm not sure if you know Kirk Anderson. He had said, good morning, Polk County. He's the mayor in St. Croix Falls, which I know you've been there several times. But and a friend of ours, that's why I'm giving him a shout-out. I like him. But there was a question in here already from Brad. And there it is. What's your position on mask mandates? And I saw this morning when I was putting up our headlines, something has just changed with that. Right? I think the Senate just did something yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know if they've done anything, but Speaker Pelosi still requires us to wear masks when we're on the floor. I don't wear one when I'm in the building other than having to be on the floor because she fines you if you don't wear a mask. And but the mayor of Washington, D.C., just this week ended the mask mandate. They've had some of the toughest rules and regulations out here in Washington, D.C. as far as the city, not just the Capitol, but the city. The mayor out here in Washington, D.C., she got rid of the mask mandate in the last week. So to the general question, I believe with any of these mandates that it should be a choice and you should allow people to do what they choose to do. And if you're deeply concerned and you think you should wear a mask, if you think that you should be vaccinated, you should do that. That's your choice. And protect yourself. And if you're protected, you shouldn't have to worry about your neighbor. And if others choose not to be masked or they want the vaccine to be optional, I believe that is their choice. There is one thing, Ben, that I believe very strongly in regards to mask mandates, and that's kids in school. We are doing great harm, especially to kids in the early grades, by having them wear these masks because so much of communication is nonverbal. And they're not picking up those clues from their teachers when they have to wear masks or when they're just communicating with their their classmates. And I believe we're doing great harm to that early childhood learning by forcing kids to wear masks, especially because kids are at such low risk to be harmed by the coronavirus.
We have another.
Anyway,
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thank you. Larry has a question here. When do they plan on paying back our Social Security money?
yeah, that's a really good question, Larry. Um, so the real concern is that the solvency of the Social Security system um, runs into a brick wall in just a few years. I don't remember the exact year, but I think it's within like five, certainly within 10 years, that there will be less money coming in than what is going out. And that is really of great
Mm.
concern. And that's part of the reason why I say, why all this wasteful spending that's going on? By the way, I don't know if you saw this story, Ben. Of the coronavirus relief funds, I think it was in California, it's like 40% of it is going out fraudulently.
What?
Much
How?
of it is going to places like China and Russia because they don't have good controls put in place. So it drives me crazy when we see all this money that's authorized by Congress and then it goes out for these programs and it ends up being wasted. And the real harm here is that we're not going to be able to fund the commitments that we made to people decades ago, like Social Security, like Medicare. Those are the things that should be paid for first before we start creating all kinds of new programs. In the Build Back Better proposal that passed through the House
Mhm.
and it's languishing in the Senate at this point, there are 14 new government programs that are proposed in there. I think we should take care of the existing programs like Social Security
Yeah.
first before we start new
Now, you
programs.
said there's 40% that specifically in California you're referencing. That has to be, I mean, anyone's listening has to go, okay, whatever. That's a total Republican spin. That cannot be accurate, or maybe it's in a different way. That it's well, actually, it's because of this. Like we anticipated 20%. Is this a Republican point of view, or is it no? That it's just a fact. That's where it's going. And if that is the case, how do we prevent that going in the future? That doesn't continue to happen.
So certainly Republicans might, like myself, are talking about it, but the reason we're talking about it is every American should be concerned about that. This money not only is it's worse than it going out fraudulently to an American. I mean, first of all, it's
Yeah,
wrong for
right.
fraud to happen, but it's going to foreign actors,
Hmm.
to countries who dislike us, like Russia and China. They are getting the money from Americans. You, the American taxpayer, are sending money to people in China and Russia fraudulently via these coronavirus relief
How did we
programs.
not see this? We got a bunch of smart people that come up with these things, and you hash it all out, and you come to a decision. How was that not anticipated? I know that seems like a duh. How didn't you? I mean, I probably wouldn't have either, but that just seems weird. Like nobody anticipated that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think so. Washington D.C. is always about what can we do for people, and but the accountability side of it is rarely talked about. I
Mm.
mean, I see this in the committee hearings that I'm in when we talk about new programs, new bills, new laws. That hey, this is going to do this and this, and it's going to be a good thing. Well, there's a flip side to that normally, and that is how are we going to be sure that a program, especially one that has money attached to it, let's make sure it's going to the people that we believe that we're targeting here, the people that are the appropriate recipients. That's who the money should go to. We do a very poor job in Washington D.C. on the accountability aspect. And by the way, it was something I really emphasized when I was in the state legislature was that accountability piece, and it's the same thing that I'm talking about out here in Washington, D.C. And we better get our act together because otherwise we're not going to be able to fund Social Security and Medicare and programs like that that have been around for a long time, partly because of the waste, fraud, and abuse that happens with federal
Mm.
dollars.
Are you seeing any of the bills or the things that are coming up or the items that are being discussed where you're going, okay, this is going to happen again and again. We have to do this. We have to incorporate this part into it. and if you kind of see those things, how does that work? Give us some insight. Do
So
you
think
do you
about it.
just not pass or vote to pass something because no, we haven't put the accountability piece in, or what we that still how does that work for you? Where I'm sure there's that tug, that pull, that juxtaposition of we need to do this, but man, we got to have the accountability part. How do you balance that?
So in committee and on the floor, I talk about that accountability part of it, and I'll put forward, for example, like an amendment to say, hey, let's put this accountability provision in there. And the problem at this point is my amendments are getting voted down. And so, I mean, that's the unfortunate part. But let's take the Build Back Better initiative
Mhm.
that the Biden administration is pushing, and it passed through the House. They're scoring it as being like $2.5 trillion. It's actually like $5 trillion. It's an incredible amount of money, and but there's 14 new programs that are proposed in there. One of them is for free community college. Another one is for free daycare. And what will happen with those programs is the money will go out the door, and I will assure you, I can guarantee you that some of that money is going to go fraudulently to people who game the system. Because the big concern in Washington, D.C. is always let's make sure we get the money out the door. There's far less concern about the accountability piece. Let's make sure it's only going to the right people.
I'm gonna ask you something, and I'm not really sure how to word it, so I'm just gonna, like most things, just pop in my head and I just spit them out, and I usually regret them. I want to ask you why that is, but actually, I'm going to make a guess here, just a guess, and this is for Republicans and Democrats, all politicians. I'm going to guess that the reason is the getting the money out the door may not have so much to do with putting it in people's hands that need it. It's more of something that we can say that we got accomplished to get votes. Tell me I'm wrong.
I think anytime it is sexy for anyone who is elected at any level, and I said the same thing in the state legislature. It's sexy to get that bill
Yeah.
signed, and you get your picture with the governor, the president, whatever. You get to clip a ribbon, something like that. That stuff is really sexy. The accountability side of it is really hard work because you have to dig deep. And you have to make sure that, for example, if there's a provision in the law that's allowing money to go out and it really shouldn't to a particular group of people or an organization or something like that, it's tougher to take that money away. It's tougher to do the accountability side of it. And I think that's part of the reason why this happens.
hmm we already have, so thank you for answering that. We have a few other, three more here. I haven't read these, so
Hey,
hopefully,
people are
yeah,
lighting it
hopefully
up
hopefully
today,
these are
Ben.
appropriate because I haven't read them yet. Yeah, they are. Are there any plans you have in mind to combat the attack on the energy sector, i.e., pipeline construction, to try and reestablish American oil independence? And actually, I'll put another question up here in case that you want to tie that in. This is from Dan Harrington. Do you think it was a mistake to release our oil gas reserves? We can do those one at a time. I just wanted for you to see both of those questions.
Yeah, just in a general case. So the very first thing that President Biden did on January 20th is he said, we're going to shut down the Keystone pipeline construction, and we're going to open up the pipeline for illegal immigration from South America.
Mm-hmm.
And so the message was sent immediately that America is not going to tap into the incredible oil reserves, fossil fuel reserves, natural gas reserves
Mm-hmm.
that we have here in America. And you're seeing that happen in a variety of ways. And so what's the offshoot of that now? You have a governor from Michigan who wants to shut down a pipeline through the Mackinac Straits that's going to affect our propane supplies
Mm-hmm.
in northern Wisconsin because that pipeline runs from Superior over to the Mackinac Straits. You have the Biden administration begging OPEC to drill for more oil. It has been over a decade since America was begging OPEC to pump more oil. We didn't have to because we found enough to be energy independent. And now you have given a real advantage to the Russians because they're now holding the Europeans over a barrel. with the natural gas reserves Russia has that they pump into Western Europe. Our exports of oil really give us a geopolitical foreign policy advantage. And while we should make sure that we're taking care of our home base first, those exports also bring money in for us.
Mhm.
It creates jobs for people. And there's a lot of good things that happen with that. And plus, it keeps prices down. So what's the other thing that's happened? We've all seen it at the pump. Prices have went up as a result of, and it's largely psychological, where the markets are saying the Biden administration is clearly anti-fossil fuel. Therefore, we expect to see less come on to the marketplace. Therefore, we're going to bid up the price of those products. And you're
Oh,
seeing it
sure.
with you were seeing it with propane. For we have a lot of people that burn propane in northern Wisconsin. I do. I paid 80 cents a gallon back in August of 2020. I paid $1.50 August 2021, and we're all paying about $2 a gallon now. The last price that I saw about a week ago. And so that's what's happening to energy products. And Steve had, as part of his question there, in regards to pipelines and stuff, I have a constituent over in Eagle River who talked about he's got 200 guys that work for him are going to lose their jobs as a result of the Keystone Pipeline being shut down. You have two of the biggest pipeline manufacturers in the country are right here in Wisconsin. Michael's Pipeline out of Fond du Lac. But they have people that work for them from all over the state of Wisconsin. And then you have Precision Pipeline just down the road in Chippewa Falls that they employ hundreds of people with really good paying jobs. There is the threat now that these guys are going to be put out of work as a result of shutting down this pipeline construction on Keystone, as well as over in the Mackinac Straits, which Governor
Mhm.
Whitmer from Michigan is threatening to shut down. And what it does ultimately, though, is it really takes away that great advantage we have that creates jobs, economic growth, and also gives us national security. That's being energy independent.
Mm. Speaking of the money going to China, or fraudulently or potentially going to them as well, help me understand one thing that I've never really been able to understand fully. And you know what? This is probably a conversation for a different show because it's probably going to be a long one. But if you can kind of just the bullet point
I'll be
version here
brief.
is with our debt and where does that money end? You know, we've all, I think, heard at this point that China owns, and I don't know if this is accurate, but owns more of America than America owns America. Don't know where that came from, but we've all heard that. How does that work, right?
Yeah, well, it certainly is a question for another show
Yeah,
because it is multifaceted. But ultimately, you have bondholders that are purchasing those,
right.
and oftentimes, I mean, there's people from all over the world that are purchasing those, and including the Chinese. And that's, I think, what people are citing
Oh,
is
sure.
they're saying Chinese interests are buying some of those bonds
Okay.
that are put out there. The big concern
Right.
to me at this point is there's been so much money that has been printed over the last year and a half. And it's the huge concern I had, big concern in regards to the infrastructure bill, because that was not paid for. There's additional debt that was taken as a result of that. But it really concerns me with the Build Back Better program, which the estimates I've seen are it's going to be upwards of $5 trillion if
Mm.
it would pass. Hopefully, it does not pass. What that's going to do is pump even more money into the economy, and it inflates the currency. It makes your dollar worth less.
Mm.
And that's the big concern that we're seeing across the country is we're seeing people, I mean, I just saw some data yesterday. On average, people have gotten about a 4% wage increase across America. Now, granted, that's just an average. But the cost of living has went up 6%.
Yeah.
So you're falling behind, and you're falling behind even while you're making more money because of inflation.
Yeah, I want to double or just circle back to a few things. You brought up red flag a lot earlier in this conversation. I think it was a part of another bill. But the red flag, have you heard when you talk to law enforcement or maybe individuals that are this would also impact, I don't know if that would be, health professionals, etc. Is there like a happy medium here? Like, okay, so the red flag as it stands, how it's written or what it looks like, bad idea. But if we could just do it this way, it'd be better. Have you received a lot of the people that you know, the people that you talk to, or the people that come to you, whether they support you or don't, but they come to you and say, we want this or don't? Um, is it? I'm assuming it's generally probably not a hey, let's do this, because I really don't know many people who are really for that. But is there a happy medium?
Yeah, I did not fully answer Dan's question in
Oh,
regards to was it a mistake to release our oil and gas reserves? And yes, I believe it was a mistake to do that. And the way to correct it is to allow us to drill for more oil, allow our public lands, do it safely, do it
mhm.
in an environmentally sound manner, but build those pipelines. Let's make sure we have that energy independence. We will keep our oil and gas reserves full if we go out and pump the tremendous reserves we have across America. So anyhow, with that having been said, in regards to red flag law, I believe there is a happy medium, and I believe it is in state law in Wisconsin. And by the way, that's one of the big concerns I have out here in Washington, D.C. I see the federal government sticking its nose into so many things that states and local governments can take care of. I mean, you want to talk about local control? That's really what should be happening. States and local governments will take care of most of the concerns that we're talking about here, other than protecting the border and foreign policy and our military readiness. I mean, that is federal, protecting our border and military readiness. But otherwise, the states can take care of this. And the state does have a law. In fact, I think you could talk to your dad about this as a former sheriff. He could fill you in. There are provisions in the law. Let's say someone could be a harm to their family. They could be a harm to themselves. Law enforcement can go to a judge, for example, and get a court order to, for example, take that person's guns if they appear to be an imminent threat to themselves or to others. So there, and I believe it's under Chapter 51. I can't remember for sure, but it's in state law. And that to me is appropriate,
Mhm.
but there should be due process. You know, the notion that you are innocent until proven guilty is at the foundation of our freedoms here in America, and we cannot give that up. But the law serves as a way for us to
Mhm.
be able to help someone who may be an imminent threat to themselves or to others, but it must be done in a legal process. Wisconsin does have a process
Yeah.
to do that.
And I'm, if that red flag, I mean, if that ever did get passed as it was written, especially with social media and the phone calls that they would be getting, it would just be, I could see a lot of potential issues going there. Also, I wanted to bring up at the very beginning, you were talking about, political correctness in PC. I wrote down two things: South Park and Family Guy. It's really interesting to me that we live in the world that we live in right now. Our society right now is so PC, which that's fine. That's if that's you want to be. I'm not passing judgment. It's fine. I think there is a little happy medium there, where it's you don't want to say or do anything that's going to offend someone, because if I get it, I totally do. But it's really weird that we really are as a society. Again, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, but very hypersensitive to that stuff. Yet this is a generation that has grown up with South Park and Family Guy. Like the most, it's just crazy. And those shows go so incredibly well and they're so popular. To me, at least, it shows even more of a divide there of the people who are PC, and then there's some that just are so far on the other side that not at all. And like most things, I always think that there's something in the middle there. But I just thought it's weird that we live in a world now with the access to things that we have. Dave Chappelle, I'm sure you've heard about that, all the things that he has said. So it's, but it's artistic, so that's okay. It's just really interesting to me.
Yeah. So I think the PC side of things has morphed into the cancel culture. And that's what I think you're seeing some people push back against now. And it's even extended into our schools where a variation of it is the critical race theory stuff that's being taught, where to a large extent, there's people that just focus on the bad things in regards to America, and
Yeah.
America has its faults. We recognize that. It says in the founding documents, we shall seek a more perfect union. They acknowledged at the founding, this is not a perfect union, but let's make it better. And that's where most Americans are, I think. And you're starting to see some serious pushback against the cancel culture, against the political correctness, against critical race theory being taught to our kids in school that says that you are a racist at birth. None of us, very few of us accept that. And people are beginning to say, enough is enough on that. And let's stop the cancel culture where, and you're seeing it with comedians like Dave Chappelle and many others. They're starting to really speak out now and say, you are going to kill comedy if you don't allow that to, if you're going to continue with this cancel culture movement. And I think it's a really healthy thing for our country to push back against that at this point, because it's a wonderful world where we live in. We should be able to poke fun at each other. And sometimes people will step over the line, Ben. There's no doubt about it. People will step over the line. People will take care of that. You don't need laws and stuff like that to stop that. The public and people in general, when they see someone go too far, they're going to say something to them. And I think we're able to self-police in that way.
Yeah, I get it. And there's always, like at my house, my daughter Rally, so we're playing, we downloaded Jeopardy on PS4. So now we play it every night, like around 6 o'clock. We get it out, and the whole family, my wife and I, we play, Jeopardy. Just something fun to do with the family. And I think Rally had asked me, so which character you want to be? I'm like, I don't know, the white chick. And she said, well, I don't think you're supposed to say chick, Dad. I'm like, okay, here's the thing. In my house, I'm going to say chick. I didn't mean it derogatory, negatively, but just saying that's how it kind of gets corrected. Usually it's my daughter, but that's perfectly fine. Looks like you got a whole bunch of people that like you in Birchwood, or at least they're watching from Birchwood. So that's very nice. Hey, child tax credit, I know I asked you last time. This is the last month of that, at least how it was set up before. Do you know if that's going to be continuing next year for people?
I'm not sure. I can certainly check on that.
I was just curious.
But now, once again, that's one of the programs that there is a lot of fraud that is happening with that tax credit program. At the end of the day, it's time here for America to stop all the shutdowns, lockdowns, and all the rest. Have people get back to work. There's a lot of states that are showing that, hey, you don't need to do this anymore. But you got these people out in New York. I mean, like the mayor and the governor of New York, they're out of their minds, continuing to lock down and shut down people. Let them get back with their lives. Those people that want to be vaccinated, protect themselves, they can get vaccinated. Someone wants to wear a mask, you can wear a mask. Certainly, go ahead and do that, but let people live their lives.
Tom, thank you. We're already past our time. I just wanted to say that the fraud part, you said about the child tax credit, you see maybe some fraud there. I have to admit, I think I'm a part of that. I am part of that statistic. I don't know if it's necessarily, it's not the fraud part, but I'm giving money to China. So we get that money, the child tax credit. We never signed up for it. They just send it. And, we buy tons of things for Christmas. And I'm pretty sure like 90% of those things were probably made in China. So I think that the money that everyone's paying taxes on, I think I just sent that to China. So sorry.
No.
Sorry about that.
I mean, that's what people are going to do. If you're going to hand out money on the street corner, people are going to take it. I mean, it's human nature. And that's what our federal
I'm not giving it back.
doing.
No.
And you could, you could make a legitimate case for it over a year ago when the country was locked down. Hey, you got to take care of people. But at this point, we know the parameters of what's happening, and it's time to stop lockdowns, shutdowns, let people get back to work, and people will provide for themselves.
Yep.
Leave Americans alone, and they'll be just fine. And you know what they'll also be, Ben? They will be so much happier. when the federal government is dictating things, people are unhappy, and you can see it in the polling right now. 63% of people are like, we're going in the wrong direction. People will be happier, Ben, and I
Yeah.
wish everybody a Merry Christmas and be happy.
Yes, I didn't see that coming. By the way, this soon. It wasn't that soon, but yeah, the numbers and the approval ratings not going so well. So hopefully somehow. That's another thing. I do want to. I'm going to write down. You had said CRT, critical race theory, that says that racism at birth. I didn't know that, so I'm going to look into that because I really don't know much about it. So maybe we could talk about that some other time. Congressman, thanks so much. Where are you going to be? It's second week in December. Are you going to be in Northwest Wisconsin at any point? You're here all the time, so maybe you need to take a little break. People are getting tired of seeing you around at every event, everywhere. Are you going to be in our area?
Well, we're going to give people a break here, and
Good.
I hope to make it. I hope to make it back out of Washington tomorrow, and we're going to spend some time with Chris. I got to do some Christmas shopping yet.
Oh, boy.
By the way, shop local. I'm going to shop local. I'm not buying from Amazon. I'm shopping local. I hope all of you will do that also. And I'm just really looking forward to Christmas. I'm going to leave people alone. They get enough of politics. And I just hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. And remember what
it's your birthday.
What December 25th is all about. Ben Dryden's birthday.
And your birthday right after that.
The man himself, Jesus Christ.
Tom, thank you so very much. As always, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Good to be with you, Ben.
I'm Ben Dryden, and you've been watching Breakfast with Tiffany. Special thank you to Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany for once again making himself available for questions and speaking with all of us today. We host these live podcasts with our congressman on the second Thursday of every month, so make sure you join us next month for another episode of Breakfast with Tiffany. Until then, stay safe, stay positive, and as always, have a blessed day.